We are live on the Get Inspired Movement webinar. Is anybody out there? Well, it's 2:30. Looks like we're ready to go. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Hi, guys. This is Judy Thurston, along with Vicki and Dan. We are presenting you this webinar today on the #1 way to escape living the uninspired life. So thank you guys for being here. We're so excited to be here. I know we have people all the way from California here, and obviously Texas and other places. I don't know who all else is on, but if you guys wouldn't mind, sharing is caring. We still have a few more spots available, so go ahead and share on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, or Instagram. This webinar, they can still get in. It's not too late, all right? So we just want to share a little bit about us. Get Inspired Movement started October of 2014, very recently. Vicki and I put our heads together and came up with this amazing movement because really it was born out of working with so many people for the last 10 years and finding a common thread, which is that people have given up on their dreams, they've given up on their destiny, and really the underlying reason was because of the different belief systems and the fears and the lack of faith and just all these things that held them back. And we were really passionate about seeing people transform, seeing people really make a difference with their lives, and really seeing them fulfill their calling in their life. And so what this is really cool is that it's not just about that, but we're really about healing and growing in body, mind, and spirit. Being a fitness trainer, yoga instructor myself, you know, hosting retreats and workshops, you know, we really see how this affects people even just on their health and their fitness. And the mind, we're going to talk a little bit about that today with our belief systems. You guys are going to be in for a treat. It's going to be so incredible. And obviously the spirit, which is our spiritual lives and our soul, and really feeding that and nurturing that, and really going deep into the deepest foundations of really what we believe. So we're really excited. I just am so grateful to be able to present Dan and Vicki to you guys. We've all been friends for over 20 years together. They are the founders of True Reconnect. And like I said, Vicki and I work together with Get Inspired Movement. And they are just so passionate about really helping people transform lives. I know Vicki also works as a grief recovery specialist, and she's helped hundreds and hundreds of people really break through their grief and healing and transformation. And what I really love about them is that they truly are excited about sharing what they have learned and really sharing it with you guys. They have so much integrity and so much passion, and they work tirelessly. They're always studying and always coming up with just these great curriculums to help present it to the people that really need it. And we are so honored and excited that you're on this webinar with us today, because we really, really believe that this is going to change your life. Yep. This is life-changing stuff, and I'm going to be able to share a little bit more about that later. But without further ado, oh, actually, we also have one more special guest on the webinar today, which is Miss Sandy Atmore. She's all the way from LA. We're so excited to have her on. She is also a grief recovery specialist and the founder of the Graphing God program. You're going to hear a little bit more about that later. But we're really, really excited to have Sandy on also, as she shares with you. But Dan and Vicki are going to just take it away here and really give you some great tools and practicals on what a belief system is and how to break through it. So here they are. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Judy.
Great. Thank you, Judy. It's so great that you could be here with us. Judy is so amazing, and just the way that she takes care of the people that she's working with in fitness. In fact, she just came here from a couple of classes, so we're just so excited she can make it and be here with us. But we're really honored that you could be here with us as well on this webinar. This is the very first of our monthly True Reconnect webinars, where you will start to learn how to live a life of design rather than a life of default.
Hi there, Vicki here, and I'm so excited to be here. And this is really cool. This is actually the first webinar that Dan and I have done together. So this is really exciting for us. And we just wanted to let you know that our vision is to serve you by being a safe community where people can be honest with themselves and others and really be empowered to experience real transformation in our lives. And we know that is only possible in a community that is safe. So even here on this webinar, we would love any input that you have. Put it up in the chat. Anything, we're going to ask some questions through this time. And we want you to know that this is a no judgment zone. And we invite you to interact with us and each other. So please know that. And Dan was going to share a little bit.
So I just wanted to be real clear about something. This is an introductory webinar. In other words, you're going to get some great information here. You're going to have some great resources to share. But ultimately, our belief systems are developed over a lifetime. And this webinar is, as demonstrated by this image, literally just the tip of the iceberg.
We are also excited to announce that we will begin broadcasting a monthly live webinar to support you in this journey of transformation.
So here's what you can expect from this webinar. Number one, discover what belief systems are and how they are formed. Number two, find out how belief systems drive your perceptions and responses. And three, learn what unhealthy belief systems are costing you and how to transform them into a life of design, not default.
And before our conversation begins, we must understand the why. We have seen the damage of unhealthy belief systems, and we wanted to share with you a little bit about why. Why belief systems? I have been working with people through grief recovery. Really, I'm a grief recovery specialist, and I've been taking people through grief recovery for the last 12 years or so. And one thing that I've seen as a common thread is that belief systems enter into our lives during times of loss and trauma. That's really when they enter in the most. When we go through things in our childhoods, or when we go through things that are hard and we don't really understand, we can't make sense of them. That's when a lot of our belief systems really enter into our souls and into our minds. And we have seen so much recovery happen as a result of using these tools. And we just really wanted to take this time first to explain what a belief system is, but we wanted to give you guys a little bit of a background as to why are we talking about belief systems anyway, and why we feel like it's a big deal to really discuss that.
Yeah, and for my part, you know, I taught high school for 13 years, and I looked at the product of belief systems every single day in my classroom. Just the unbelievably negative talk that a lot of the students would have towards themselves and also towards each other. And you just think, wow, what must it be like to spend even 30 seconds inside their head, inside their life, inside that belief system that's ultimately limiting the way they see themselves and the world around them. And so I just think that the pain that we've experienced in our own life and the damage that we have seen in the lives of those around us really inspired us to this calling of wanting to help people break through belief systems which are unhealthy and hindering their life, and begin to embrace a belief system that is true and that is healthy.
So we wanted to start with a little exercise. So if you're brave and you feel like it, you can put this in the chat box. We're going to throw up a few words on some different slides, and we really just want you to take don't even think about it. Whatever the first thought that pops into your mind is about this word, we just want you to write it down. So here we go with the first word. What is your thought about God? One word. What comes to your mind? Money. One word that pops into your mind about money. Debt. Church. Family. Friends. Marriage. And love. Awesome. Ooh, thank you guys for sharing. That's awesome. So this is a little bit of a glimpse into a belief system. A belief system really is that thought, that first thought that comes into your mind. And I appreciate you guys sharing these things. Sometimes when we think about, if you can think, say, money, and you say evil is the first word that pops into your mind, you can be sure that you have a little bit of an unhealthy belief system around money. And that's going to definitely, it's going to affect the way that you are with money and around money, and if you make the money and all those things. So beneath everything else, everything that we have learned and everything we have experienced, beneath it all really is our experience of it.
And really, if you think about it, our beliefs are truly the driving force in our lives. And the reason they're the driving force in our lives is because they eventually become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you believe, it's not that you can somehow magically transform things, it's actually a burden to get $1 million, you know. And so our belief systems really become the driving force in our lives into how we see things. There's a great quote by Aeneas Nin, and she says, "We do not see things as they are. We see them as we are." And it's just a great way of thinking about how powerful our own perceptions are, just the way that we see things. We really, in fact, I'm going to submit to you that most of the time we don't even experience our reality. We simply are experiencing our perception of it. So, getting to our first point, what is a belief system and how are they formed? And this is something we want to spend a little time about, because if you talk to most people, they really aren't exactly quite sure of what you mean by a belief system. And it's kind of a word that gets thrown around. And if we're going to talk about it, we need to define it a little bit. So one of the things that makes it so, wetness is all a fish has ever known. It does not have any kind of a context to understand what wet truly means, because it's exactly what it lives inside of. And so that's also why sometimes it's very difficult to understand what a belief system is, because it's so all-encompassing that it's even difficult to recognize they're there. And if it's difficult to recognize they're there, then it's equally difficult to know how to deal with them. Assessment, but true. And you know, I've spent much of my life arguing against that, because I look at maybe bad things that have happened in my life and I've said, well, I didn't want that to happen, or I certainly didn't want that. But you know, the belief system driving it is exactly what propelled me into it. And the reason that that seems so unfair to look at life is because, again, the belief system is so encompassing that it's very difficult to see that that's what's driving me all along. It's my all-encompassing reality. And so sometimes it's very difficult to go, well, I didn't mean that, or that wasn't my result. And so that's, again, it goes back to our original point of why sometimes belief systems are so difficult to identify. You know, that's why something has to change on a fundamental core level in order to truly see different results and not just a behavior modification.
I think before we move on, I think it's really cool to think about that question, what sustains you? I know that for me, mostly what sustains me is my own strength. And I'm very, very self-reliant. And when I think about that, it's a very shallow root system. So I just wanted to leave you with thinking about what does sustain you.
You know, another way of thinking about a belief system is an operating system.
Yep.
Belief systems literally run our lives. And I just want to share something with you. When Vicki and I were putting together this webinar to share with you, I cannot believe how many belief systems we had to battle against and deal with and address. And you think, wow, here we are, we're doing a webinar on it, we're teaching this, we have a class on this. I mean, and it just shows you that, you know, these belief systems are very deeply rooted. And thank God that He's given us the ability through True Reconnect, which we'll talk about later, to sort of see these belief systems and identify them and at least start to kind of work through them. But the belief systems is literally, like I said, it's just like an operating system that runs a computer program. And you and I have all downloaded lots of programs into our system. Some of those programs are good, and some of those programs are bad. But ultimately, we need God to run an update on the system. Or what happens is the programs start to slow down or eventually stop working.
5% of what we believe at the most foundational level has been formed. That's amazing. When I think about that, all that happened to me and all that I thought I knew by the time I was 18, that's pretty frightening. But I love this slide because this is what we do. We read about God's love and the plans that he has for us, but very often it doesn't match our experiences. And putting a new belief on an old foundation creates conflict. When disappointments come, when things happen, what do we rely upon? What should be true or what we have learned from experiences? We fight to believe a new doctrine of truth, but our doctrine is no match for the lies that we've learned from our life experiences. And really, those who trust in their doctrine and willpower to keep them afloat are in far greater danger than they could ever imagine. I'm wondering how many of you out there have strong willpower? And I think if we had a hand raising, I'd see hands going up here. And I would like to ask, how many of you have crashed and burned on your willpower? And I would say, me too. Me too.
I want to suggest to you that your story is already written based upon what you believe about God, yourself, and others. And again, you may be thinking, wow, that's great. That's sort of depressing. So my story's already written. I'm doomed. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm stepping off the webinar right now. But I'm also going to suggest to you, and we'll get to this later, that God allows editing. God allows rewrites. In fact, we're going to invite Sandy to share her story with you because that's exactly what God has done with her story. He rewrote it. But I'm going to let Sandy tell you the ending.
And I really quickly wanted to take a moment to introduce Sandy. Sandy is our very special guest, and I'm going to get emotional. Sandy is all the way from LA. She's on this webinar with us today, and Sandy is very, very special in this journey for me. We worked together in Los Angeles before we moved to Texas, and we were partners doing this work together, and then God called us to move to Texas, and we kind of realized, as we kind of felt like ripped apart, that God meant for me to do this here and her to do it there. But I am so excited to say that we will never cease to be partners in this journey. And she has really been the driving force, really, when all of this started. She is the founder of Graphing God, and she has really put together so much of what we're teaching on, and she has an incredible story. And I want to turn the mic over to her. I want to make sure I know how to do that. But I just want to introduce to you Sandy Atmore. She is also a certified grief recovery specialist. She's a life coach. She's doing amazing stuff in Los Angeles, and we are honored to have her here today sharing with us on the webinar. So hopefully, Sandy, can you get on?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It is an honor to be here. I mean, I think anytime I can participate in anything that Dan, Vicki, and Judy are doing, I'm all in because they're all amazing. And I'm really excited about this webinar and also the monthly webinars because we need a community of people where, like Vicki said, we can feel safe, where we can continue to learn these concepts because it's such deep teaching. So I'm really excited about them. I just wanted to take a moment and share my story because I think sometimes we can hear about belief systems and wonder, is that really true? Do they really affect us? And I just want to share what my story was supposed to be and where I am now. I was raised in a home, and in my home there was a lot of abuse. So I went through physical, verbal, and sexual abuse from the time I was about 2 until I was in my teens. I was brutally raped when I was 7 years old, and my childhood was built on fear. So I grew up in a home where I was always afraid. And so when those things happened, they were horrific. and they left a lot of emotional wounds, but I also internalized a lot of lies about who I was. I believed that I was worthless. I believed that I deserved abuse. I believed that I couldn't trust people. I believed that people would take advantage of me. And I believed that I didn't matter and that I didn't have a voice. And so taking those beliefs, I went out into my life and I created what I thought was true. So I put myself in a lot of dangerous situations and abused alcohol and drugs. And then that turned into a meth addiction, which lasted for 3.5 years. Now, when I quit using meth, that was a miracle, and I had stopped using a really horrible drug. However, I hadn't healed. And so I went on this extensive healing journey of dealing with my emotional wounds and doing inner healing work, and I've done a lot of workshops. And you know, it was wonderful, and everything was definitely helping me. And then I got married, and I thought it's going to be awesome. It's going to be happily ever after. And then the first couple of years of my marriage were very, very challenging. And the reason is because that though I had healed and emotionally, I still believed those things. I still believed I didn't have a voice. I still believed I didn't matter. And so I filtered all of my experiences, particularly in my marital relationship, because it was touching on such deep parts of my heart, through those filters. And I came to a point of, you know, here I am, I'm now a Christian, I'm not using drugs, I have this amazing life, and I don't feel amazing. I'm not experiencing life the way that I should be. I'm still in bondage. And it was through that desperation that God really led me to belief systems and looking at not only looking at what did I believe, but like what Dan said, how to edit that, how to engage with God, how to engage with me and understand not only what's in there and be aware of it, but also how do you break through that and start to live in a different way. And so it's definitely been work, you know, it's deep work, but I can honestly say that, you know, here I am a few years later, my marriage is wonderful. I have peace. First time in my life I've ever had peace. First time in my life I've ever been present. And you know, I see this not only in my own life, but I work with so many people that are driven by what they believe. And so it's such incredible and amazing work. And, you know, the whole Graphing God program kind of came out of that desperation. And I really feel like it was something that I got to be a part of, but it was really something that God created. I was just, I think, so desperate that I was willing to do whatever it took. But it's amazing work, and I think it's so amazing what Dan and Vicki and Judy are all sharing today. Because if you really even just start to get, what do I believe, and what are my belief systems? If you even just start there, it'll start to open your eyes to realizing how much power you have over your experience. So I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for letting me share and be a part of this. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dan and Vicki.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy. Wow.
It was awesome.
I really just appreciate so much of what Sandy shared because, well, number one, it's not easy to share that. It's not easy to invite people into the parts of your life, but it's also amazing to see the power of God activated in her life. And what a different story it would have been had she not dealt with the belief systems that had gripped her life. And now it is amazing. I mean, I can testify, she is an amazing person. She's somebody that you spend 15 minutes with and you just walk away feeling like you got a little ray of sunshine injected into your veins. I mean, she's really, really amazing. I just appreciate her a lot. All right, so we're going to look at the next point. So how do belief systems drive your perceptions and responses? Okay, it's interesting. First of all, you have to kind of think of this like a map. Distorted beliefs are sort of like putting the wrong coordinates into your GPS. If you put the wrong coordinates in, you are never going to get where you want to go. And then even if you have the right coordinates, without seeing where you are, you will never know where you need to go either. And so this is kind of an important idea to take in. What you really want to do is hopefully begin to think of it like this child. This is what a healthy belief system sort of looks like. Because we're actually designed to live in expectancy of God's goodness. But our distorted belief systems create a gap between expectancy and expectation. And first, I got to talk a little bit about those two words, because I think we've confused the word expectancy with expectation. So let's just take a minute to clearly define what we mean by this. Expectancy is the state of thinking or hoping that something, especially something pleasant, will happen. You know, if you look at this kid is just happy to be opening something up. They have no idea what they've even got yet, but they are thrilled to be opening it up. Expectation, however, is different. Expectation is the state of believing that something pleasant will happen on our terms, according to our version. In other words, that would be like this kid opening up and going, ah, crap, I didn't get the Tonka truck I wanted, right? So expectations are very different. And using those two words, think about this. Guess which mindset leads to disappointment and disillusionment between the two?
And I think most of us grow up with distorted beliefs about who we are, how we matter, and what we can expect from life. I think those three are big ones. If you're taking notes, those would be good ones to write down. Who we are, how we matter, and what we can expect from life. So one of the things that we talk about is how belief systems will push us into the past, where we live with our friends' hopelessness, regret, shame, and guilt, which is not a fun place to be. Or some of us keep moving so fast, we don't even go there ever. Instead, we live in the future, surrounded by our pursuits and our companions there. Worry, anxiety, anger, stress. Anybody relate? Anybody out there relate to this? But I ask you, where is the present? Where is the time in my schedule and in my soul to be fully engaged in the present? Because the present is where my husband is. That is where my daughter is. And it is where my parents are. It is where I fully experience God and His presence in my life. How do I achieve this life to the full that Jesus died for me to have? I look at this and I go, wow, yeah, sometimes that's what my life feels like. How do we manage all these rivers that pour into our lives? We are looking for the 5-step plan. We're looking for a way to make a better schedule, be more organized, have an accountability partner. Maybe I should fast from something. Well, I know that I've tried all of these things. And I guess I'm really here to tell you that we can't stop any of these rivers from flowing. You can't, and neither can I. But we can learn to let God direct them.
So, in looking at this next point, what are unhealthy belief systems costing you? I think one of the big things is that, you know, acting on a distorted belief releases a very destructive power in our life. It keeps us in bondage and it disrupts all of our relationships. It's not the sort of thing that we keep in a box. For example, if you look at this image, the only reason monopoly money doesn't fool anybody is because we know what real money looks like. But what if we didn't know the difference? When your belief system is grounded in lies, you cannot tell the difference and it costs you. In other words, before the truth can set you free, you have to recognize which lie is holding you hostage. Because lies not only distort our perceptions of God, ourselves, and others, but they also distort even our ability to find what the truth is. I personally believe that under all addiction and all self-sabotaging behavior is unresolved grief. And I know this in my own life personally, and I know this just being married to a woman that's walked literally hundreds of people through the grief process. It's immensely powerful. And it's in this condition of unresolved grief that our unhealthy belief systems are formed.
Yeah, that is so true. And the seeds of unresolved grief grow into a bitter root and become weeds that choke the joy from our lives. Really, the root is a wound we have not grieved. And I love this quote from John Eldredge. Grief is a form of validation. It says the wound mattered. It mattered. You mattered. That's not the way that life was supposed to go. That's what makes this work so important, because this is not what we have learned and what we do not embrace. Oh, and we do not embrace this.
Fine. How does that happen? In the True Reconnected course, we show you how to do this, and we walk alongside you in the process. This is really a big question. It's a big question. Let me give you the Twitter version in response. We go very much in depth, like I said, in True Reconnect, but let me just give you the Twitter version for right now. Number one, you got to go back to the designer. You got to go back to the one who made you for the answer. Number two, you have to allow the Spirit a full access pass to your heart. You just need to. You need to see through God's eyes, not our own, not our belief systems, God's eyes. And you need to be intentional. You need to go, this is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to bring to God. This is what I want to move forward into. And again, that's the Twitter version. We go much deeper in True Reconnect, but for the time being, this is kind of how you think about God setting us free by making us whole and holy through his love. That's how that's accomplished. That's how that's accomplished. And his quote from Winston Churchill, now this is not the end.
If we asked you about belonging, love, and connection, a lot of times, and I talk to people about this a lot in the work that I do, but when we ask about those things, belonging, love, and connection, I'll hear a lot about isolation, heartbreak, and rejection. And really, like all beliefs, you simply live them. And we're going to do another exercise here, and this will give you a glimpse into some of the work that we do in the True Reconnect course. And if you're brave and you would like to share, write it down in the chat box right there. But we ask that you write down one limiting belief that you have. And a limiting belief is anything that stops you from going after something that is meaningful to you. And if you're stuck or nothing's coming to you, look at your list from earlier. Your responses to the words that we put up there earlier indicate a belief system. And we would love, remember that there's no judgment, no comparison, and just safety to be honest. So if you can think of anything, what is one limiting belief that you have? I know for me, a big limiting belief that I have is I have to do it on my own. If it's going to be, it's up to me. And, you know, I've recently discovered that that's not in the Bible anywhere, nowhere. No proverb says that. It is not, but it is a driving force in my life that I have to fight against constantly because it makes me very resentful, interestingly. But that is a big one for me. What do you think is one for you?
I think that a big one for me is it's not going to work out for me. It's not going to work out for me. And so I think you can probably see where, okay, so what does that do to my efforts?
Right.
Because underneath it, if I'm really convinced that it's not going to happen for me, hey, why bother, right? And so you can kind of see how much that limiting belief succeeds you. And Leo, thank you so much for sharing. I think that, yeah, you know, when you have achieved, you know, like they say that the worst thing that can happen is not for someone to be poor, but for someone to be rich and lose it. You know what I mean? Because then you know what you had. And so a lot of times these limiting beliefs create a perception in us that really are inaccurate. And yeah, and like Tim, I appreciate you sharing that too. I mean, these are all things that we believe and hold on to, and this is how they become our reality. Not because we want them to, but because we just don't know any other way to think than the one that we always have. So
Awesome.
I want to take you to this. Taking action, even taking action a little bit at a time with small steps, with patience. The belief systems that enslave us did not get their power over our lives overnight. So we have to realize that this process is going to require some patience. It's going to require action, just even a little action. You don't have to do some grandiose gesture, but The belief systems that enslaved us, like I said, did not get their power over us in a day. The power of a little done often, eventually, like these raindrops on these rocks, will turn them into sand. And just so I stop you, no, I'm not suggesting that it's going to take thousands and thousands of years for you to work through this. I'm just simply saying that over time, if you give yourself patience, if you have a little grace with yourself, if you have a little mercy on yourself, you can see the other side and you will start to see changes and shifts and progress.
Yes, and it's like, how do we stay present as we go through the seasons of our lives? And we're all in different seasons of our lives, and what our destiny or our calling is, where our character is all over the place. When we lose connection to God, to others, maybe you're in a season of illness and it's hard for you to even be with people because you're just not able. All those things, we're always in different seasons, and how do we stay present as we go through those seasons? And one thing that I'm learning is that God never called us to maintain our love for Him during those seasons. And it's so interesting because He knew we couldn't. The constant is not our love for Him. We are human, and unfortunately we wane, and He knows that these belief systems, they hinder us so much. The constant here is His love for us and the scene in that. And I feel like that's really the crux of everything. And when our belief systems choke out our ability to do that, we must fight to get our glasses on.
For connection. God's desire is for us to have that connection, a wellness, a complete wholeness, right? As much as we can experience in this broken world. And it's in our gratitude that becomes a secret for finding this. Learning thanks is truly a lifetime lesson. It's not something that we're going to learn that one time and then put it in our back pocket for later to pull out when we need. We're going to be learning that lesson over and over and over again. But it's also directly connected to the life that you read about, that life to the full that seems so elusive. Men lead lives of quiet desperation, as Thoreau once said. Yes, even in the church, they live those lives. And we are all about breaking belief systems so that we can grasp all of who God is and under a purpose and a destiny has been placed on our life. 2% of the population has vision for their lives. 2%. Think about, where are you? Think about what's blocking you. Because ultimately,
we are definitely here to tell you that your past is not your anchor. It is your platform. And our role is to receive our life and our calling with thanks and ask for nothing to change. Well, how does that feel? To surrender to God's call on your life. Unresolved grief that leads to unhealthy belief system plays a major role in keeping us from that calling.
You know, in this quote from Brendon Burchard, we've forgotten that the natural flow to life is not a distant death, but a present, in the moment detachment from living. You know, kind of that feeling that you're watching your own life on TV, that your entire existence is on DVR somewhere, that you're not really even living it, you're just watching a recording of it. And I think it's our great hope and passion to see people live free from the lives that bind them and from living in their destiny. Our passion at True Reconnect is to help people break through these things. We tend to pray like this: God, I need a miracle. We want to pray like this: God, way to escape living the uninspired life. Wait for it. Intentional action. And I know you're probably going, what, really? That's it? Seriously. I'm on this webinar to find that out. Well, let me just quickly define what intentional action is. See, New Year's resolutions don't work because they're kind of a goal without intention. In other words, let's say you want to lose 10 pounds. That's a pretty common goal that most people have. Without addressing the reason why we have to lose 10 pounds in the first place, we are going to at best produce a very temporary result. Knowing what to do with it, which is the intention part, plus knowing what to do, that's the action part, you have to have both in order to achieve that. In other words, you can simply lose 10 pounds by cutting it off, but I don't think that result is very healthy and we'd end up in the hospital. So, Now that you know what a belief system is and how they work, do you see that it's possible to rewrite your story, no matter what your ending might be right now? What would it feel like to be excited about and be energized by your relationship with God? What would your relationships feel like if you were fully present in them, with your spouse, with your kids, with your friends, with God? What would it be like to experience the resurrection of forgotten dreams, to live free from old disappointments? To believe again. At this point, you have two choices. One, you can continue going the way you have through trial and error and powering on. And you know what? Vicki and I are both confident that you will eventually find what you are looking for. Or, number two, what if there were a path to follow that has already been paved, where there is a safe community going in the same direction, with people who are willing to walk alongside you during the journey, where there is encouragement and grace and transformation?
And that is true Reconnect. And if you are one of those people who like the second choice, who say that there is a better way than the road I'm on, we are grateful to announce the next step in your faith journey to join us for the True Reconnect workshop, because we believe that God set us free so that we can live free. A 6-week intensive workshop that meets one a day, one for 2 hours, and it's an action program designed to identify your false belief systems and equip you with the tools to change them. A community-based support system that walks alongside you with inspiration, support, and accountability. And it's really a one-of-a-kind program that bridges the gap between informational and transformational. And we know that that this incredible journey of personal spiritual development, it will equip you for all these things: the lies that limit you, the past that shames you, the fears that paralyze you, because we know that you were made for more than this. And we know also, because this is what we do, and I know that Sandy will attest, because Sandy is a coach as well, and we know that 6 weeks of coaching on this level would be worth $600 to $800 easily. And we do know that the value of this is $497. But we are in the business of inspiration, and we are offering the course for only $247. It's a small, intimate class, and this class is going to be here in Austin. It is only available for 20 people. So the first 20 people is all that we can fit in, and the next class will be sometime near the end of the year. So we want to really encourage you to check it out and register today. And if you do, we have some bonuses as well. Reconnect, the course, and she has a great story, just a great life. She is my partner in Get Inspired, and I am truly inspired by her on a daily basis. But she wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit about her story with True Reconnect.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. What an incredible webinar so far. I am just, wow, blown away, learning so much. And I have been doing personal development for really a long time, over 25 years or so. And I've invested lots of time and money and energy, and doing this class, the True Reconnect class, has really been an eye-opener and a huge, just life-changing experience. We talked a little bit about what your life-limiting beliefs were. And for me, mine were, you know, you're not worthy of success, you don't deserve success. And I really didn't even know where that came from until I took the class. And that's what's so interesting, is some of us, we know exactly where those belief systems come from. And for others like myself, I had no idea. So when I went through the class, I was really amazed and shocked to see just where that root was. And if you're on our meal kit and really relating to people in a way that, you know, there's so much security and passion and life, really. And so I don't know about you, but if you're ready to really dig deep and start uncovering these belief systems in your life, and if you're ready to grow and really ready to go after your calling. This is a huge need, I think, for every single person, especially in the work that we're doing. A lot of the people that are hurt the most are people in really religious circles. And that's so sad to me, because once you lose your hope in God, what is left, right? What is left? And so I encourage you, if you've ever, you know, been part of a situation, maybe in your religious life, in your upbringing, that was a negative experience, don't let that hinder you from really experiencing who God truly is.
Yeah.
Because that's what this class does, is it separates your experiences from really the truth. And it's very powerful. I can't share about it enough. I'm definitely a huge advocate. And at this price, it's a huge steal. And we're really looking forward to seeing the lives that are going to be transformed in this 6-week course. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you so much. We do have a few moments. If there's anybody out there, if you have any questions that you want to, I'm sorry, we have technical stuff here. If you have any questions or anything that you want to ask in the chat, please feel free to go ahead. I've really appreciated seeing what you guys have said here, how you've responded. That's so encouraging to me to see all your responses and stuff. But if anybody has any questions, we can definitely talk about them, about belief systems or about the class or anything at all. And we'll leave it up with the last. Thank you so much, Sandy, for sharing. Thank you so much, Judy, so much for sharing. And we are just wrapping up. I don't see any cost. Thank you, Leo and Tim and Gail, for the people that are in here. I know we've got a lot of people out here from Los Angeles. That is awesome. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Stacy, Susan. Thank you guys so much for being on the webinar.
Yeah, we just really appreciate you honestly giving us the most precious thing you have, which is your time. And there's a lot of other things you could be doing with your time, and I hope that we've honored it by giving you something valuable.
Yes, and if you guys gleaned from this webinar, we would really love for you to share it with your friends, your family. Like Vicki said, we're going to be doing this on a more regular basis. We're going to have guest speakers. We're going to interview people. It's really an exciting time, because I feel like this is, again, we've been given so much, and we just want to share it with all of you. So please share it with your friends and share it on Facebook, and just continue to be on this journey with us. And we're so excited to be able to serve you in this way.
Thank you guys so very much, and we will sign off, and we'll see you and talk with you guys soon. Bye.